Hey, great to see you, everybody. Welcome back and happy Saturday. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful start to the weekend and hopefully getting ready for what is shaping up to be a big time storm system, kind of really two big time storm systems on the way, starting really as early as tomorrow. But the real, I would say, exciting weather kind of comes later into next week. And we're going to break all of that down for you in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I am a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. We're about to enter the second half of my junior year. So getting pretty far into things. I want to say thank you. We had a lot of growth with yesterday's video, did very well. So again, welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back to all the returning viewers. And if this is your first time watching, well, I can't think of a better time to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for the latest notifications. It's free to do, helps the channel out. Also go ahead and like the video and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and consider sharing with somebody that you think might find it interesting. I am still getting around to reading all the comments from yesterday's video, so I promise by the time this one is posted, I will be through reading those and I'll kind of be going through the responding process and all of that. But again, just want to say thank you to everybody. One other thing I will briefly mention here at the beginning, and I'm not going to, talk about it forever, but if you haven't already and you would like to order a special 2025 GMWeather calendar, the link to do so is in the description. This is a great way to support the channel, and if you don't want a calendar and you also want to support the channel, there is a way to donate down there as well, and all of that helps to fund my education. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started here because, again, I'm not going to promote myself for 30 minutes straight. I do want to talk about the weather at some point. So here we go. All right, so taking a look at satellite imagery, things, again, relatively quiet right now, but it's what's coming that is kind of the bigger deal. Now, currently on satellite imagery, we have a couple of storm systems, one up here into eastern Canada, one well off the coast of the United States, now even kind of closer to Bermuda, and then a big-time trough dipping down out west here. And this is what's going to kind of kickstart our first storm system out into Texas that is going to ride up through the Great Plains. And then this trough behind it is going to reinforce that with a big shot of cold air. And that's what could lead to some pretty major snow and very exciting winter weather next week through portions of the eastern United States. Now, the other thing that we do briefly need to talk about is Tropical Storm Sarah, this big blob of convection you're seeing down into the Caribbean that is unfortunately causing concerns into Central America currently. And we are going to touch on that here to start the video, and then we will kind of go from there. All right, so I will show you satellite, and let's see if it wants to load a little bit cleaner than this. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. So again, this is what is considered Tropical Storm Sarah. It's really just a big blob of kind of showers and storms over the Caribbean. Again, a couple days ago, this looked like this could have been a major hurricane threat for the state of Florida. Then that track shifted west enough that we've seen a lot of land interaction with the storm, and that's why we've got such this messy look. But again, expected to make landfall into Belize sometime over the weekend here. Kind of getting into tomorrow afternoon and then likely dying out over the Yucatan Peninsula. But one concern with this is all of the heavy rain we are seeing down this way. Again, we've already seen flash flooding concerns through Honduras. That will continue, especially on the north western tip of the country here, where we can still see another half a foot to a foot of rain before all is said and done. Now, I'll briefly show you a model of this, and then we'll move on to the stuff I'm sure that you're really here for. Not to take away from the impacts of the storm, I just know many of my viewers are in the United States and probably not in Central America, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. But again, you'll notice very heavy rainfall today into tomorrow over Central America. That continues into the weekend before eventually the storm kind of gets ripped apart over the Yucatan, but there is a chance that this does reform somewhere along the Gulf Coast. Not as a tropical storm, but just as a low pressure system. And that could bring flooding, rain, and even a severe weather threat sometime early next week, maybe Tuesday into Wednesday, through portions of the Gulf Coast and into the state of Florida. So even though we're not going to see a tropical storm, we could still see impacts out of the storm system. And I think that is important to kind of note here with what Sarah is doing. All right, let's talk about what's happening out there right now, and we'll start east and then move westbound. Again, a couple of showers, whether that be a little bit of ice mixing in, but definitely some precipitation falling up through Quebec, back into New Brunswick and Nova Scotia this morning. seeing definitely some of that stuff falling from the sky, and likely ice even further north in there. Now, we don't have radar coverage up here into Newfoundland and Labrador, which I guess this part is just Labrador technically, and even up into northern Quebec. But again, I can guarantee you some wintry precipitation falling. Now, for the United States, the big concern here in the Northeast is fire danger. We have had a crazy dry fall, and you folks watching up this way, I know I've got a couple of viewers. Let me know if you're kind of seeing any of those smoke impacts or any of those fire concerns near, your place of residence there. But I've seen some pretty impressive video out here of some, pretty large forest fires. So the red flag warnings have spread from Philadelphia all the way up to Boston, Concord, New Hampshire, the entire state of Connecticut, Rhode Island, all of Long Island, and all of New Jersey under these red flag warnings. Again, breezy conditions, very dry conditions, and even flash drought setting in. So this is something we haven't talked a lot about, but it is a concern and something that you folks will need to watch for. The good news, I do see a relief here with some precipitation likely in the Northeast this upcoming week with that big pattern change and maybe even some snow for places. We'll talk about that. Southeast right now, pretty calm, not much ongoing, so a great day for some SEC football for all of those college campuses. Same story for some Big Ten football up into the Midwest. Not a whole lot happening today. Now, where things are more active is out west, where we do have some, pretty active weather. A couple storm systems. One of note here up into Montana and North Dakota. That could bring some snow today into tomorrow in places. Also heavy snow back into the northern Rockies, and winter storm warnings for the Cascades all the way down through the mountains of Oregon and even some of those northern Rocky communities, as a lot of kind of orographic lift or just topography helping to produce some lift is going to create a lot of snow and that big trough moving through, bringing plenty of cold air and, again, those increased snow chances. But it's not just the higher elevations that'll see impactful weather. Even outside of that, we're going to see some of that active weather with some rainfall at the coast and in those valleys. All right, time for everyone's favorite Meteorology in Minutes segment. Let's go ahead and break down today's Meteorology in Minutes and kind of give you that forecast on what to expect. So like usual, we're going to start with our upper level map, then we'll move to our surface map and kind of connect the two. The real big story I'm going to talk about today is this massive trough out here into the desert southwest. Now, there's a couple cool things that we can analyze about this trough. One, the amplitude of it, meaning how kind of long it is from the peak of the trough to kind of the bottom of the trough here, or the peak of this ridge to the bottom of the trough down here. Again, very amplified trough. You can tell because of how long it is. Another thing we can talk about is the tilt of it. You'll notice that it's tilted kind of, let me do it this way. It should show up the same. Well, I guess it's the opposite of yours, so I was right. For you, it looks like this. Actually, that's still backwards. You get the point. It is positively tilted. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. So we do have that positively tilted trough. Now, generally speaking, that is a sign of a weaker trough, or less likely to produce a strong storm with a strong front. But this one is going to eventually turn negative or neutral, and then will produce a stronger storm system. Another thing to note here is we kind of have a trough embedded in a trough. This is a bit of a short wave, as we call it, although you could argue it's kind of its own little separate trough. But you'll notice how this isobar kind of kinks down compared to this overall, or not isobar, but height value rather, compared to these overall height values that are kinking downward. And what's happening here is, again, I've talked about this many days in a row. I'll say it again. What happens on the right-hand side of these is we get divergence in the upper levels, and basically that's just an area of lift, okay? So that's an area of more likelihood to see shower and storm activity. So if I circle that area that's seeing that enhanced lift due to that embedded shortwave, what do we have? Well, look at this, low pressure at the surface. So that definitely checks out and kind of makes sense. So that's your fun little Meteorology in Minutes segment of the day. Again, don't want to spend too much time on that every day. It is called Meteorology in Minutes, not Meteorology in Hours after all. So that is kind of the fun thing there. All right, let's start talking about this pattern change, and it's all going to start with one storm system and then lead to another storm system and potentially another one after that. Again, it's going to be a very active stretch here in the weather department. And I know you're probably thinking, well, Gerald, we just looked at this map. Yes, we did. But this time we're going to move it ahead into time a little bit. So again, what you're watching is what I just discussed, this big trough here. Again, you can watch that little more embedded one up here too. That'll bring some snow to the Dakotas. But the bigger deal is this massive trough out west, and watch what happens. Again, I said it's going to become more neutrally and negatively tilted, and that's exactly what happens. In fact, a little piece of it kind of breaks off down here towards the Four Corners and even into northern Mexico. This is overnight tonight and into tomorrow, and at this point becoming more neutrally tilted to even negatively tilted. And again, that's a sign of more likely to see a strong storm system. And one reason for that is whenever you get these circular shaped troughs compared to more amplified, if you will. This creates even more diffluence above and even more lift at the surface, and that's going to kind of lower your pressure values even more, create a stronger storm. And then you get a circle one that's even elongated and tilted a little bit. That's going to really increase your advection values, and again, can lead to quite a strong storm system. So what happens is that trough does happen, and then it moves up through the plains, and we get a pretty powerful storm with it. Now, the kind of exciting part for snow lovers in the east is what's happening behind it. You'll notice another big pocket of cold air with another trough here. These two are eventually going to merge into one, and that's when that exciting weather for the east sets up. But before we get there, let's talk about this major storm that's going to happen down into the plains, because again, we have viewers out here as well, and kind of time this out for you. So this afternoon, again, that trough still pretty positively tilted, not a lot happening, but overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, you'll notice low pressure beginning to develop at the surface here, and with that, shower activity increasing and even mountain snow activity increasing through New Mexico and even portions of Arizona there. Now, it's your Sunday afternoon that things really go downhill. Again, all of that lifts beginning, a ton of rain developing, a ton of heavy mountain snow, and all of this is really going to get going overnight Sunday into Monday. In fact, you'll notice during the evening hours here, we've got a big squall line setting up as, again, that advection begins and that cold front kind of really pushes in behind the storm here. And we could have enough Gulf instability in front of this that we are likely going to see a severe weather threat for a couple of days in a row here. And we'll take a look at that here in a second. But again, that's kind of the near term with the storm. Now, if we zoom things out a little bit more and go back to kind of the national view here and time this one out for you. Now, I guess I'll kind of break a segment here a little bit. I'm not doing a little near-term forecast today like I normally do, because we're going to take a look at the whole country in the near term. So, and things are relatively quiet in the east, and out west you can see what's happening really just as well. So, we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here, which again, I always say this, but that is a terrible expression. I don't know who came up with that one, but that's a terrible expression to use. Anyway, this afternoon, again, in the east, beautiful, quiet. Out west, heavy mountain snow and valley and coastal rain. And then also that snow falling up here into the Dakotas, like we mentioned. We'll move this ahead into time, though, overnight tonight into tomorrow afternoon. Again, the storm system forming down into Texas. Still very heavy rain and mountain snow up into the PNW. And we'll talk about snow totals out that way towards the end of the video, so hang on for that. Other than that, again, remaining quiet in the east, a couple of showers possible into the Midwest as this low pressure kind of pulls northbound. So don't be super surprised to see some of that from Iowa up into Wisconsin and Michigan. But the real exciting weather, again, into the southern plains for your Sunday afternoon. Now, here we go Sunday evening. You'll notice this low pressure really develops. And by the time we're waking up Monday morning, we've got a very strong storm system with a well-defined cold front here and a well-defined warm front. In fact, you really can't get a more defined frontal system than this one, and a pretty low pressure. So expect windy conditions, heavy rainfall, severe weather threat. You're going to get it all with this one Monday throughout the day as the storm pulls northward through the plains, eventually becoming occluded quite quickly. So this will not be a long-lived max intensity with this storm. Again, it's going to hit peak intensity probably in Texas and Oklahoma, and then become occluded, just meaning that, that warm front and cold front kind of begin to merge a little bit and combine, and we will lose the severe aspect with the storm with that likely. Although you'll notice on the southern side here, here's that Gulf piece of energy from the remnants of Sarah that the storm's kind of trying to pick up a little bit. So again, could see severe weather down this way, but overall the kinematics will kind of get lost a little bit here as we lose some of that forcing due to the occlusion of the storm system as it pulls northward. Now, as it pulls northward, though, here comes that pocket of cold air behind it that I was talking about, and the two are eventually going to merge, and that's when we could see some snow in the plains, most likely into the northern plains and down into the Rockies. going to be the most likely places to see that. This is Tuesday afternoon into overnight Tuesday. You'll notice a big band of snow from portions of central Canada back down into North Dakota, up into northern Minnesota, and then our next storm system getting going out into Colorado, kind of starting as a Colorado low, but it'll really amplify over the Ohio River Valley, and that's our next storm system for the east. All right, I know I keep teasing you, but before we get to the east, let's talk about the severe weather potential and that snow potential with this storm. Again, tomorrow we do have a slight risk of severe weather, including the threat of tornadoes, although not very high, but we do have a threat area from Abilene back down towards San Angelo, even up into Wichita Falls. So the I-20 corridor from Fort Worth all the way to Odessa, Texas, and even the I-10 corridor from Fort Stockton back down towards the northern suburbs of San Antonio could see a tornado tomorrow. Cannot rule it out. Day 3, another day for severe weather. You'll notice a smaller slight risk here than maybe day 2 was, but this will probably get expanded a little bit. And I think the worst of the severe weather will probably be on Monday, right into this corridor, specifically the I-35 corridor from Oklahoma City all the way back down towards Dallas, and even south of there a little bit could see the worst of it. But anyone in this green bubble, really the entire state of Louisiana, Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas, the eastern half of Texas and Oklahoma could see strong to severe storms on your Monday. And I can guarantee you this will also probably include a tornado threat as well, as the storm is really getting to peak intensity in this time frame. So we'll need to watch for that for sure. All right, snowfall potential up here. Again, we are going to see some of that snow potential into this region. You will notice that we do see, again, a lot of blue and kind of purple showing up here into the section of North Dakota with, again, some totals could be higher than this or even lower than this. I'll talk about that in just a second on why that is. But kind of a 1-2 punch. Again, you get the storm system today, and then you get that next storm system next week after it occludes. And I do think somebody on this map will get more snow than you see right here. Sorry, anytime that I start talking in loops, that means a different pop thought in my head. Different pop thought. See what I'm talking about? I don't even know what's happening. A different thought popped in my head, and then I completely derailed from what I was actually talking about. So anyway, let me dial back in. Here we go. This is snowfall totals for the northern Great Plains. Let's start there again. You'll notice widespread areas of 5 inches, some places getting as much as a foot on the blend of models here. But don't be so fooled by this, because if we take a look at the probability numbers, and this is something that is great to use for snowfall forecasting. If we go over some of these same areas of North Dakota that, again, back here were near half a foot to a foot of snow. If we look at all of our models put together, the 25th percentile or the kind of bottom 25% of snowfall totals show 0 inches, and the top 25% show 9 inches to a foot. So there is a lot of uncertainty here. Again, on the exact track of this storm, does it occlude, does it phase properly here with that next upper level low to produce big snowfall? It is a big question, but there is the potential, but I would say kind of a boom or bust storm here. So whenever I show you this map, this is just kind of the average of that boom and that bust, but it could be well above this or it could be well below this. So take that into account here as we're taking a look at that. Alrighty, let's talk about what's to come on down the pipeline here into the medium and long range for the east. Again, we've been kind of teasing this for a while now, but here it is. This is kind of the setup. We'll kind of pick up where we left off with the last storm. Let me refresh the page so it is working nice and properly here. All right, here we go. So this is where we left off. This is kind of Tuesday afternoon, and this is when that merging process will begin between our two storms. This is what's left of our Great Plains storm. This is our next big trough of cold air. And I do want you to note this jet streak to the south of this trough. This is an area of enhanced wind, and I'll talk about why that could be important here in just a moment. But we move this further ahead into time, and here we go. Here's that jet streak. Here is that major upper level low beginning to develop. And this is where things get exciting for you folks in the Appalachian Mountains, you folks in the Ohio River Valley into the Northeast. This is when we could likely see very strong low pressure organization, and there's a couple of reasons why. And I posted this on Twitter yesterday, or X, whatever you want to call it. By the way, if you don't follow me there, link in the description. Would love to gain a follow from you. But let's take a look at why we could see such a strong storm system next week into the east. It kind of has to do with two things, and things that we've been talking about in the Meteorology in Minutes segment. We have a jet streak here, and then we have diffluence, or again, spreading out of winds in the upper levels, kind of at the same time. So let me redraw this. So I don't know why the pin is so thick. Let me see if this is, yeah, sure. I guess we'll use this one. So again, we have a major diffluence here with our height values. You see this big area of spread kind of right through Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Again, from upper level divergence, that's creating lift. Another thing that's creating lift is this jet streak. This kind of box that we have on the jet streak that I've drawn here is called the left exit region. And this is also an area known for enhanced rising air or rising motion. I'm not going to get super deep into the meteorology. We'll save that for another day on Meteorology in Minutes, because I can guarantee you'll see more of these this winter. But basically, we've got multiple pieces working together to create a ton of lift. And another thing we have is a very sharp temperature gradient. Again, everything right into here with this upper level low is very cold air, while down here we still have pretty warm air. So you get a lot of lift, you get a huge temperature boundary, and what happens is you get a major storm to develop, and you can see that here as this kind of bombs out into the middle of next week. This is Thursday morning on the GFS, and this is a very impressive look for big time snow from the Appalachians, West Virginia, up through Pennsylvania, maybe as far south as North Carolina, but really West Virginia especially I want to hit home on. Also a look for potential snowfall kind of into the Ohio River Valley, into this region of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. It's a look for that. It's also a look for a lot of precipitation into the Northeast, as we're again getting a ton of upper level divergence over that region. So we've got a ton of different looks for a ton of different impactful weather through much of the East through next week. And I'll tell you, this isn't the only model showing it. This is a great tool to use from Pivotal Weather here. This is all of our models at the exact same time. This is the Euro AI model. This is the European model. This is the Canadian model, the GFS model, the GraphCast GFS, which I'll be honest, I don't even know what that is. I guess it's the graph model now that I think about it. Yeah, I just connected those dots. Anyway, icon model here and the UK Met model. So again, I'm going to quickly breeze back through all those. Just watch the map. I know I'm going quick. But what do you notice? It's all the same. Again, now there's obviously little differences, and that'll play a big role in who sees the worst of it and who sees exactly what. But there's high model confidence in a major storm system producing active weather over this part of the country during the middle and end of next week. Another thing all the models agree on is cold air aloft. You see that those blue colors, that is below freezing temperatures in the upper levels here. And actually, now that I think about it, let me change this to the mid levels. That would have been a lot more useful for snowfall prediction. So you get to see kind of on the fly stuff. 850 millibars should do the trick pretty well. So again, this is kind of the freezing level, or how cold it is, not far above the surface, and for some of these mountain communities, really kind of right at the surface. And we'll take a look at it. Again, you'll notice this is the Euro AI, the Euro, and I'm just going to kind of breeze through all of these. Canadian, American, Graph American, Icon, and UK Met. What do you notice? They've all got cold air at the same time. So this is part of having a big upper level low. I'll just go back to the GFS, which is showing it very well. All of that cold air into Canada is getting streamed southward through this very strong polar jet stream that has moved down. And then it's getting wrapped around into this upper level low. So it's kind of creating its own pocket of air. Imagine, I don't know what I was going to say, imagine, but just it's kind of a crazy setup. We're getting this feed of cold air. Instead of it kind of going from one place to another, it's coming down and then just wrapping around this huge low pressure, kind of like a cinnamon bun, I guess. I don't know if that's what I was going to say, but you get the point. Plenty of cold air, plenty of lift, and plenty of active weather on the way with this setup. And let's take a look at what this could look like. So this is the GFS model. Here's that big pocket of cold air. Here's that low pressure developing. This is Wednesday morning through, you'll notice right there into the Ohio River Valley. And notice how strong this strengthens. This is due to those upper level dynamics I talked about. 1,000 millibars, we'll say 11 a.m. Wednesday. Then we've got 994 millibars by 1 or 2 in the afternoon, 989 by 4 or 5 o'clock, 986 by the time the sun is setting, and overnight, look at how strong this gets, and look at this snow and precipitation breaking out. This is what we call a bomb cyclone. This is whenever the pressure drops at least a millibar an hour or 24 millibars within a day. And that's exactly what's happening here. We're seeing bomb cyclogenesis over portions of the Midwest and the Ohio River Valley. That's going to bring very strong winds, a lot of lift, heavy snow for somebody. And you'll notice on this map, you're wondering, well, Gerald, why is the snow on the south side? Again, it's due to that cold conveyor I was talking about that is kind of bringing all of this cold air down into the storm, combined with kind of this deformation band, which has to do with a bunch of upper level ingredients that honestly even I don't know all the way about yet. That'll be next fall's class. But either way, what you get is a whole lot of snow falling on the backside and rain kind of on the warm side here that is getting a lot of that Atlantic pull. Another thing, again, I talked about relief for the Northeast. Well, here it is, a ton of rain likely on the way with a setup like this. In fact, potentially even flooding and maybe snow for some folks, but really this model showing a lot of the snow from the Ohio River Valley into the higher terrains of the Appalachia chain. This is getting into Thursday evening. I mean, this is heavy snow, borderline, I would argue, potentially blizzard conditions into portions of West Virginia, maybe even the mountains of Pennsylvania there through the Poconos. And this could even get as far south as North Carolina. We could see heavy snow out of this. It all depends on the exact placement of this upper level low, how it evolves. And you'll notice a whole lot of snow just falling day after day. This is into Friday afternoon. This gets us into the weekend. Lake effect snow begins to fall at points. And then another thing you'll notice, and we're going to talk about this, another low pressure forming on the outside here of your map. This loops back around and dumps a bunch of snow into portions of the Northeast. So it's kind of a crazy pattern. It's one that it could last a while. It could last not very long. The European will kind of move this ahead into time. Again, same story. Strong storm develops, heavy snow on the south side, very heavy snow into the Appalachia chain. A little bit weaker, maybe not even, I guess about the same strength here. Again, a ton of rain into the Northeast, but watch what both of them do. This is kind of a new thing. They both develop a storm off the coast of the Northeast, and this would make sense. A strong baroclinic zone setting up shop, and a lot of divergence above that. We could see another storm form, and then that could lead to maybe some mixed precipitation through the Northeast by next weekend. Maybe snow, maybe rain. Again, it would really depend on the upper level dynamics and thermodynamics, but either way, a very eventful pattern. And I'll show you this as well. Again, all of our models kind of agree on this. European for next Friday, Canadian for next Friday, or this is really Thursday evening, I should say. GFS for the same time frame, and then the Icon for the same time frame. Again, all showing a storm system, all of them showing heavy mountain snow in West Virginia and Virginia, and powerful winds and likely rain elsewhere. All right, so I just showed you that little piece of energy that was breaking off on kind of the side of this thing in the Northeast. Well, why is that? Well, with these big troughs, you get a ton of vorticity, especially these cutoff lows that are circular. Think about, what is the most kind of spinny thing you can have? Well, it's a circle, and whenever you get a circle low pressure to form, you get a ton of vorticity. And often what happens is you get these little pieces of vorticity that kind of move outward, and we get cyclonic vorticity advection, as we call it. And that could lead to a storm to potentially form somewhere along this. Again, other features are also going to maybe help that happen. And if that happens, that could help to reinforce some cold air on the backside here. And maybe we get some snow into the Northeast outside of just the higher terrains. But again, either way, this is a look for a major storm system. And I'll tell you right now, I think there's going to be little surprises in this that maybe we don't see right now. Whether that be another little storm forming, maybe a deformation band somewhere. Again, these are tough setups to predict the specifics, but the overall pattern has definitely locked into an active one in this time frame. All right, snowfall potential. This is the blend of models. So this is all the models put together. These are the boom models with the bus models all thrown into the same thing. And you'll notice one area that really jumps out, outside of obviously what's happening out west, are the mountains of West Virginia. I mean, even the blend shows a foot to, a foot and a half of snow on some of these highest peaks, even down into the mountains of North Carolina, plenty of snow up into portions of Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, and into southwestern New York. Heavy snow into the mountains of the Northeast. And then look at this, even through the Ohio River Valley, 1 to 3 inches are showing up on the blend of models from southern Indiana through northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. We've got lake effect through Michigan, a little bit of everything. And then obviously out west, I told you earlier, a ton of snow. This is through the next 10 days. We're talking 5 to 6, 7 feet of snow in spots out here through the highest terrains of Washington, British Columbia, Oregon, and even down into the Sierra Nevadas. So a ton of snow. Now that's the blend of models. The GFS, here's a different look. Now, do not go home and tell your brother and your mother and your friends or whoever that Ohio's going to get a foot of snow. That's not going to happen probably. But what I will say is look at the location of the snow. That's the GFS. This is the Canadian. This is the European. You'll notice there is kind of a similarity here between Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and the mountains of West Virginia for the worst of it. And that's very possible. We could get a deformation band to set up again. That could bring a lot of snow into those regions. But exact totals will really just need a timeout over the next couple of days as we get into next week. But either way, it looks exciting. Temperature-wise, again, going to stay warm through the weekend for many of us in the east. Stays cold out west. Next week, though, here comes that big shot of cold air. This is next Thursday high temperatures. We're well below average through the southeast and the Ohio Valley. You'll notice, again, 10, 20, even 25 degrees below average in spots. Now, the question is, how long does that last? The European model kind of gets this in and out of here pretty quickly. The GFS, though, kind of resupplies the cold air and maybe keeps that winter machine going through much of the 10-day range, and even well after that keeps that cold air locked in all the way through Thanksgiving. So which solution will happen? We'll just kind of have to wait and see, but I'll definitely keep you updated on how the models change. Alrighty, folks. Again, I appreciate you hanging on with me on this Saturday. I'm sure you got plenty of plans, and I talk for 30 minutes anytime there's exciting weather. So, is what it is. But y'all have a great rest of your Saturday. Oh God, have a great rest of your Saturday. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.